Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. I'm Fang Fang, President and CEO of the Greater Austin Asian Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for joining us today. In today's webinar, we have invited our guest speaker, Jacko Tsang, as the Director of the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office in San Francisco. Ms. Jacko Tsang represents the government of Hong Kong Special Administrative Region in fostering economic ties between Hong Kong and 19 states in the western part of the United States. Jacko will give us an overview on the latest business and investment environment in Hong Kong, as well as resources available in Hong Kong for foreign companies seeking to expand their reach to China and to the rest of Asia. This webinar will be recorded. At the end of the webinar, we will leave some time for Q&A. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the Q&A box below through Zoom or on our social media if you're watching our live stream from there. We would like to acknowledge that this webinar is in partnership with the City of Austin's Economic Development Department and the Hong Kong Economic Trade Office in San Francisco. We would also like to thank our 2021 corporate partners for their continued support to our mission. We have also invited our very own board member, Clifford Chiu, to moderate today's webinar, given his deep knowledge and connections in Hong Kong. With a career spanning 4 decades, Mr. Chiu currently serves as a senior advisor to Vista Equity Partners based in Austin and to Neuberger Berman Group in the US and Hong Kong. Mr. Chiu is a new Austin resident. He is also a director or trustee of the Ascension Seton Fund, Health Alliance for Austin Musicians, St. James Settlement, and our organization, the Greater Austin Asian Chamber of Commerce. Without further ado, please take it away, Mr. Chiu.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all participants. And thank you, Jacko, for joining us today. We have an audience of combination business, legal, I see, banking, and we have people with a common denominator interested to learn more about Hong Kong. I came to Hong Kong for the first time, a native New Yorker, more than 50 years ago as a student, and 40 years ago as a business practitioner. And I had the pleasure to live there from 1997 until year 2014. And what for me was the most appealing is Hong Kong is truly Asia's world city. It has, among others, a very premier do business atmosphere. It is the freest in terms of business, with a hub for not just Asia, but China. And it has a low, simple, competitive tax rate, one of the lowest in the world, and a multicultural talent pool. And today, because we are transparent, we are realistic, it is one country, 2 systems. And that system is one of capitalism, but it is also one respecting the motherland of China, which is now what Hong Kong is part of as a city, no longer the English colony. Hong Kong's a vibrant city with a world-class infrastructure and an open business environment. And so today, for all the audience, we hope that, Jacko, you're going to share the realistic opportunities for us who are interested to learn more. A point of reference, because I did spend 17 years in Hong Kong, I am a Hong Kong permanent residents as well as a US citizen. And another point of reference, one of the companies to which I'm affiliated, Vista Equity Partners here in Austin, we have announced the opening of our Hong Kong office in November. That's next month, November. Well, actually this month, but we are coming at a time we're very excited because for us, it's an opportunity as a gateway to China, but also to tap into the 7.5 million population that is doing very well coming out of COVID and coming out of the current economic and global trends. So more about that later. But for now, may I make the introduction to Jacko? And then we're going to open it up to questions. And we have, I can see already a number of people express some interest in asking. So Jacko, over to you.
Thank you, Clifford. Thank you for the great introduction. Let me just quickly share screen. And today, I would just like to give all the audience a brief overview of Hong Kong, as well as an update on the latest economic and trade opportunities in Hong Kong at this moment and in the near future. So thank you, everybody, for coming, and here we go. So perhaps I'm not sure how much the audience know about Hong Kong, but a brief overview of Hong Kong, as Clifford so elegantly put it, is Asia's world city. And what do we mean by that? Hong Kong is a city of about 7.4 million people, and it is strategically located in the southern part of China. As Clifford alluded to, it operates under one country, two systems. It is part of China, but it has its own distinct legal, political, and commercial system. It has the distinct features of practicing the rule of law, judicial independence. It operates under a common law system, which is familiar to people operating in the US and the rest of the Western world. It has a robust intellectual property protection system. It is a city where it is committed to business friendliness and competitiveness. So it is very easy for companies to come and set up in Hong Kong. It is a free port, has always been, and that means that there is zero tariffs. As Clifford said, we have a very simple tax regime. The low tax rate, what does it mean low? It's basically for profit tax, it's between 8.25% and 16.5%, 16.5% being the ceiling, the maximum. And for salary tax is a maximum of 15%. So it is basically, it takes me about half an hour to complete my tax return in Hong Kong. It's a very simple tax system. Now, we also have really good infrastructure. And what does that mean? We have a world-class international airport. And from our airport, you can reach half of the world's population within a 5-hour flight radius. And we have over 100 airlines flying to over 200 destinations worldwide. We have a high degree of connectivity both to the rest of the world and, of course, to the mainland of China. With good universities and attracting people from all over the world, there is a significant, highly educated talent pool, making it easy for companies to hire the necessary professionals to help their business. We have an efficient government. it is rated by Transparency International among the world's top 11 least corrupt economies and second in all of Asia. It is also a very safe city. It is ranked by the Economist Intelligence Unit Safe City Index as among the top 10 safest city in the world. So it is a commercial, a highly westernized city, easy for people from all over the world to start their business and settle in and to live in. But it also has a vibrant lifestyle. You can go from the city to the countryside, which is kind of in the city. Within half an hour, you go hiking after work, you come back down to a restaurant and have a late dinner. You can definitely do that on a work day. So is that urban and country living all mixed into one. There are also some of the rankings here. I'm not going to go through them, but considering that Hong Kong is just a city of 7.5 million, it really is quite remarkable that we're ranked in the top or the top 3 in terms of freest economy, global competitiveness, digital competitiveness, and as the world's premier financial center. Now, people may have had concern in the past 2 years with what's happening socially, economically, politically, and especially with COVID, whether Hong Kong is still doing well. How is it doing right now? Let us look at the figures. In 2020, it's the world's number 2 for IPO funds raised. It is the world's number 3 FDI recipient, which is quite remarkable. It's only behind China and the United States, both gigantic economies, yet Hong Kong received FDI, foreign direct investment, only behind China and the US, much more than bigger countries in Europe and Americas. And then it is also notable that about 2/3 of FDI inflow into mainland China comes from Hong Kong. Now, of course, a lot of that money are channeled through Hong Kong, which tells you the importance of Hong Kong as a hub for capital flow and especially investment into the mainland of China. There are, well, in the first 9 months of this year, our economy grew by 7%, and unemployment has fallen from the beginning of this year. It was around 7.2%, and in the past 2 months, it has come down to around 4.5%. So our economy is definitely rebounding despite the international travel restrictions. And basically, there are positive signs all around. In terms of total merchandise trade, we are breaking historic records, probably due to the very strong rebound in demand from the US and Europe, as well as the rebound in manufacturing in the mainland of China. So our import and export figures are at an all-time high. What also is at a record high is the number of overseas and mainland business operations in Hong Kong, reaching over 9,000 in 2021. 14% of these overseas or mainland companies originating from outside of Hong Kong, 14% are from the US. There are a record high of 3,755 startups in Hong Kong this year, according to our latest survey, is increased by 68.5% from 2017. And 28% of these startup founders are from outside of Hong Kong, which tells you not only that Hong Kong has built a good startup ecosystem, but that it is attracting founders from all over the world. We believe that Asia is going to be a major global growth engine in the decades to come, and Hong Kong is perfectly positioned to capitalize on those opportunities. There are several reasons besides the advantages that I have cited and listed before. New developments such as the National 14th Five-Year Plan, the Outline Development Plan for the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau Greater Bay Area, the Belt and Road Initiatives. These will all help Hong Kong to consolidate our existing strengths and develop in new directions. Now you may say, what does the National 5-Year Plans have to do with Hong Kong? The National 14th Five-Year Plan is Beijing's plan for the economy of China in the next 5 years. And what it does, it positions Hong Kong among other cities in China and provide a direction for the policies that will follow. So in the plan, it is stated that Hong Kong will be supported in its traditional strengths, including finance, transportation, aviation and maritime hub, trade, and legal and dispute resolution. It also says that the central government will support Hong Kong in further developing in newer areas, such as the International Aviation Hub, Innovation and Technology Hub, Regional Intellectual Property Trading Center, and also an East-Meets-West Center for International Cultural Exchange. So these are the areas that Hong Kong are strong at or will put a lot of effort and resources into developing. You may or may not have heard of the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau Greater Bay Area. It is a plan that was unveiled a few years ago that's gonna encompass Hong Kong, Macau, plus 9 cities in the Guangdong province. It is going to, right now, it encompasses an area of 56,000 square kilometers with a total GDP in 2020 of 1.67 trillion, 9th largest economy in the world if you just count the GDP. But the GDP per capita is only at $20,000 US, which means it still has a lot of potential for growth. It is one of the world's largest and most competitive Bay Areas. It's special. What makes it special? It combines the manufacturing powerhouse that is the Pearl River Delta, Guangzhou, Dongguan, Foshan. These are areas where it is already producing 12% of the nations of China's GDP and 37% of China's exports. It already has Shenzhen, which has developed into a very strong innovation and technology hub, where very innovative companies are based. At the same time, it has Hong Kong, which is an international finance center, which is good for professional services, and it has world-class universities. And Macau, which is a world-class entertainment center. So with this Greater Bay Area, China wants to build it into a place where the people, capital, and culture can flow more freely among this area so that the development of the entire area can be lifted. So that is one very exciting development. And you may wonder, why does US company have to care about that? It is because they're with the ease of flow of people and capital and goods among this area, there's going to be a lot more opportunities, and especially for companies who want to locate to Hong Kong, and they can be Hong Kong businesses and take advantage of being a Hong Kong business and access to the great market and manufacturing hub and consumer market and business to business markets in the Greater Bay Area. no matter where the capital or the founders come from, as long as they are Hong Kong registered company, they can take advantage of this easy access. It is a springboard to multiple markets beyond the Greater Bay Area, of course, to the rest of mainland China and ASEAN. Now, Hong Kong is a strong financial center. It has a comprehensive financial service industry covering banking, stock market, our offshore RMB services, asset and wealth management. And there are opportunities in financial services and fintech. Hong Kong has already issued 8 virtual bank licenses, 4 virtual insurer licenses, and over 600 fintech companies. And we are trying to improve our listing regime to expand our offshore renminbi business, to grow a green and sustainable financial market, and to attract family offices and other financial companies to Hong Kong. In order for fintech, especially, to develop, regulation have to keep up, and we have successfully implemented a sandbox for regulation in Hong Kong, and we are trying to build a Greater Bay Area sandbox network that can allow the Greater Bay Area regulators to let companies test their fintech products for across jurisdictions. Hong Kong's putting a lot of emphasis and investment into building an international innovation and technology hub. We're trying to build up our strong R&D capacity, especially in healthcare technology and AI and robotics. Fintech, and it's also one of our focus. We have built 2 research clusters, one in healthcare technology, the other one in AI and robotics in the Hong Kong Science and Technology Park, hoping to let these world-class research institutions to cluster together to not only take advantage of Hong Kong's talents and resources to produce cutting-edge research, but so that they can talk to each other and cross-pollinate their ideas to propel innovation. There are many policies coming to increase investment into innovation and technology, both to increase land supply and to deepen cooperation in the Greater Bay Area, and also to set up an InnoLife healthcare hub for research and development of life and healthcare disciplines. With liberal immigration policy and cosmopolitan lifestyle, there are opportunities for career professionals as well as startups in Hong Kong. Now, Invest Hong Kong is part of the government that helps companies and people who are interested in relocating to Hong Kong or expanding to Hong Kong to help them get all the information they need. So if there's any question, Invest Hong Kong has a team in our office, the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office in San Francisco. We would be very happy to talk to anybody who is interested in Hong Kong, and we can provide all the information, including business registration, licensing, things you need, market information, market intelligence, and also immigration related information, all types of visas and education needs and housing needs, information we can provide and connections that we can make. So thank you, everybody. That was my brief introduction of Hong Kong and an update on what's going on. And if you want to find out more, you can check out our report on Hong Kong's business environment listed here. And I'll be happy to talk more about all of that with Clifford.
Yes, well, Jacko, thank you. Thank you for the update. And I think the first point that I want to raise is about Texas and about Austin. You said you have 19 states that you're covering. I hope you know that Texas, and in particular Austin, is one that is booming. And it is also, just like Hong Kong, vibrant, do business, and the common denominator is filled with entrepreneurs. And some are in tech-enabled, others are in real estate, including a number I see in the audience today. And then others are doing services which are essential for consumers or for individuals. So technology, financial services, real estate, that's what Austin is. And so I hope among the 19 states, and in particular as COVID lifts, that you'll travel more often to Texas and more often specifically to Austin, Jacko.
Definitely. Thank you, Clifford. I mean, that's the whole reason why I'm here today.
Yeah.
I was planning to travel to Austin and work with the Greater Asian Chamber in Austin to meet more people in Austin, to promote Hong Kong in Austin, precisely because we can see the trend. We can see that many businesses and technology firms and technology professionals are moving to Texas, specifically Austin. And we want to reach out and build our network in Austin. To your point, technology, real estate, and professional services are three things that Hong Kong are, well, either good at or are trying to build. So in technology, as I mentioned, fintech, clean technology, and biotechnology, I think are three areas where Hong Kong can really have a good synergy with Austin. The companies in Austin who are good at these areas may find very fertile ground in Hong Kong if they're looking for expansion into Asia.
Right.
And yeah.
You know, when I think about it in a private equity perspective about coming to Hong Kong, it isn't just to sell your product. It is also to partner with local who may in fact have the door opening customer relations. So 1 + 1 is going to equal 3. You have an Austin property company coupled with either a Hong Kong property or Hong Kong capital markets funding capability. And that will then afford more capital and a bigger growth opportunity for expansion. That expansion could be going back to the US, so it was just a capital arrangement, or it could be to tap other parts. We talk about China, and if you all see on a map, Greater Bay, you can access it now by car, by ferry, by any number of places, because the southern part of China is, you know, the booming. It's really like the Silicon Valley of China now. And when we talk about financial services, the bar to making IPO, so for many Austin companies, including a number of unicorns that we have, including Asian company, Austin Asian Chamber companies that are unicorns. We talk about a capital markets that's very vibrant and welcoming international brands and international sponsors of IPOs, and indeed SPACs, the special purpose acquisition companies. So I wanted to share with the audience, at least these are some of the ideas. We have a question that came associated with how to navigate the new privacy and security laws for technology, particularly for technology software, for those who want to locate in Asia. How would you respond, Jacko, as far as that question?
I believe the audience may be referring to the new national security law that was that became effective last year in Hong Kong.
I think that particular law is one more about overall security. This is about technology software. You know, they have a certain IP, and the issue is making sure that for a technology company from America, that their special software is not going to be copycatted or used without the permission of technology companies. So it's that in that context we talk about privacy and security laws.
Right. So two separate issues. Number one, if we're talking about intellectual property,
Yes.
and the intellectual property protection in Hong Kong is very robust. It's as robust as anywhere else in the world. And that's why many companies choose to locate their research and development arm in Hong Kong, even though their manufacturing may be done in China. That's because Hong Kong affords them with a very, they have more confidence in Hong Kong's intellectual property protection and the independence of the judiciary, which continue to be the case, and not affected by the national security law.
Correct. And I would also propose, when we think about expanding, you know, the rule of law is very important. So Hong Kong has a rule of law, and that is why people who want to do business come to Hong Kong, because they believe that they have the right protections. And when they make contracts, often they're doing it in under contract law, so under rule of law associated. So that is an example of another protection. But I would say to you that Hong Kong is smart enough to know that if American or foreign companies operating there didn't have protections around privacy and security and data, they would not come any further. And in order for Hong Kong to be a vibrant city, it must preserve that integrity. And I would also say that China, which is now the country to which Hong Kong belongs, recognizes that and recognizes and values the role that Hong Kong plays as a major financial center and hub and gateway. So again, if you think long-term and overall perspective, you know that those protections need to be in place in order for Hong Kong to thrive, in order for it to attract overseas business.
That's right. Another example is, for example, in China, technology companies often are required to have their servers located in China. And that may cause concerns for some technology companies, whereas Hong Kong does not have that requirement. That's another example.
Yes, yes. I see, Jacko, that a participant based in Hong Kong is welcoming, based in Dallas, I'm sorry, who knows Hong Kong well, who hails from Hong Kong, is welcoming you also to Dallas, and is hoping that come the first quarter of next year that we will have more travel opening up, border crossings. What do you think? What do people say now? I think Hong Kong to China, there's some talk about opening the borders.
That's right. So let me just briefly introduce what's the current situation in terms of COVID-related travel restrictions and quarantine requirements. At present, for Hong Kong people, if we go from Hong Kong to China, we're still subject to 14 days of quarantine. Usually it differs somewhat from city to city, but usually 7 days in a hotel, 14 days in a hotel, 7 days at home. As you can imagine, Hong Kong and China being so closely related, there are just so many Hong Kong people who have businesses in the mainland of China across the boundary, people who have relatives who have very close family members in the mainland or who live on one side of the boundary and work on the other side. The priority of the Hong Kong government right now is to lift that quarantine requirement for Hong Kong people to go from Hong Kong into mainland China. And we're working on that, and the government is trying to adjust its quarantine requirements so that China would feel comfortable in lifting that restriction, which according to businesses in Hong Kong, including businesses from elsewhere who are in Hong Kong, that would be a huge ask, a huge priority for them too, because many of them have factories or suppliers in the mainland of China that they need to visit. Now for Hong Kong's quarantine requirement for overseas visitors, it is risk-based. So depending on the epidemic situation in individual countries, Hong Kong categorized countries in 3 categories: high risk, medium risk, and low risk. From high-risk countries, which unfortunately the US belongs to this group at the moment, only Hong Kong residents are allowed to enter if they are fully vaccinated, and they will be subject to 21 days of hotel quarantine. Non-Hong Kong residents are not yet allowed to enter, whereas from medium risk and low risk countries, the quarantine requirements are lowered to 14 to 7 days, depending on the risk level and whether they're fully vaccinated. So as to when the quarantine requirements for outside visitors may be significantly lowered, it really depends on the evolution of the pandemic situation outside of Hong Kong. Hong Kong has been pursuing a zero-case strategy successfully. We've had 0 case since I think at least 2 months now. So no community transmission at all. Although we have a single-digit imported cases from people returning from overseas, but because they are subject to quarantine and testing, they normally do not have a chance to pass it to others. So it's a successful strategy, and a strategy which many Hong Kong businesses appreciate because there is no case, so their businesses are not affected. People go out, people go to work. There was never a lockdown. But in terms of international travel, it is an issue for people to visit or for people to visit their family. It is a hardship, but it really depends on how the pandemic situation and the risk associated evolves. We hope that with increased vaccination and therapeutics in 2022, the situation will improve.
And I would say across Asia and pre-pandemic, I traveled to Asia monthly, not just Hong Kong, but different cities. And I would propose to you that from a zero case perspective, really Hong Kong is ahead of the game in terms of controlling the variant. And so we hope that there are other cities where there's still work from home. In Hong Kong, we are not doing work from home, or there are the return of a variant where Hong Kong has been under control. But again, the challenge is now for so many people, we can't get there. Or if you're a Hong Kong resident, 3 weeks, and 3 weeks is a really long time for quarantine. We have a question. I think, Jacko, this can apply to our entire audience and members. And that question is, could you give us an example of a success of not a large corp company? We got a lot of entrepreneurial, medium, and even smaller companies that their first exposure to Asia, or their first even international, would be to Hong Kong. Could you share a case study with us that people in the audience can then apply to their own situation?
Sure. I have a couple of examples. For example, one is in high-tech manufacturing, which I believe it's Austin and Texas in general are very good at. So there's this company which focuses on MRI technology. It's a technology he developed here in the US with IP mostly in the US. But it was looking for a place to headquarter their company, right? So because they think they are building, they were building manufacturing lines in China, they chose to headquarter in Hong Kong to take advantage of the simple taxes, the support that the government gives to tech companies through the Hong Kong Science and Technology Park and Cyberport, so that they can have and be in a good program with space and support. And they have developed into a company where they are manufacturing both common MRI machines and also very specialized MRI machines, which I think it's interesting because they chose to locate their more specialized MRI machines to, they want to expand that production line, or indeed locate that production line in Hong Kong.
And how about selling it? Now that they've produced it, it's an American company. Where are all those going? Some will come back to America.
Definitely, they're selling all over the world. Definitely in America, they're trying. I think they have just opened another office in the US. Well, they've opened one, yes. And so they're trying to sell to the hospitals here. They've already sold to many different countries. So they're coming back to sell here. But yes, they have managed to build production line, to raise money, to manage their production line in China. And they've located their more sensitive, all the research and development in Hong Kong, precisely because of the intellectual property protection.
Well, I will also observe from an personal anecdotal, on the 24th in Hong Kong, there is the inaugural Asia Health Summit hosted in Hong Kong. And I know about that because of my own involvement with healthcare and health equity. And I also know it because my colleague, Robert Smith, the founder of Vista, is the keynote speaker of that Asia Health Summit next week virtually in Hong Kong. And what the focus there is to develop both innovation as well as the best practices in Hong Kong and then bring it to China and other places. But it's part of innovation and incubation and technology. And so I could easily see maybe the MRI company is participating in that health summit, but it's convening all types of different thought leaders on the next generation of what is needed. And in fact, so many startup companies, and this is important for the Austin audience, startup companies, some hailing from Hong Kong, some from all over the world, go to the two places which Jacko has spoken about. One is Hong Kong Cyberport, and the other is the Science and Technology Hub. I'm a board member of Hong Kong Cyberport, and in particular, that is a startup hub where space, funding, and in particular, collective mind share and information is aggregated and is a very attractive area for developing business and of course funding that. Any other example that you could share with us?
Sure. Another one which people may be familiar with is Impossible Foods. And they chose Hong Kong as their first point of entry into Asia in 2018. So when they decided to expand their market into Asia, they chose Hong Kong. And the reason why they chose Hong Kong was that it's a place where there's just a very high concentration of restaurants, that people eat out all the time, that people are very open-minded, and there are trend-setting chefs from all over the world and all over Asia concentrated in Hong Kong. So when they introduced their Impossible meat into Hong Kong, they were able to test the market, get the feedback very quickly, and build up their reputation. And then 1 year later, then they expanded to Singapore. And they are they were expanding their operation in Hong Kong to continue their further expansion into Asia. So that's another example of a completely different category of company.
Well, two things I can say. First is, among the very robust, active membership of the Asia Chamber here in Austin, we have many that are in the food preparation, delivery, service sector, and probably some best in class that I think would be welcomed in a foodie place like Hong Kong. And second, services in general. I think, as you pointed out, professional services, but all types of services. Hong Kong people, I find, are always interested to try something new. And when it comes to food, as long as the taste, the texture, and smell is good or better, they're more than happy to give it a shot. That's why I think the success of what you mentioned. We got another question, Jacko, having to do with Invest Hong Kong, and just to understand what type of quote unquote incentives can a Austin company thinking about moving to Hong Kong expect to get or support from Invest Hong Kong in particular?
So Invest Hong Kong is a government department of Hong Kong that focuses on bringing overseas businesses to Hong Kong and attracting talent. So not only business, but also people. So if you are a company looking to expand into Hong Kong, whether to just as an office or just a corporate function, or if you are a professional looking to go to Hong Kong to work, to find a job, what we can do, the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office has a team from Invest Hong Kong, part of our office. Our team will talk to you and get to know what you need, what your sector is, what your company wants to do, what are you looking for, and then provide those information that you need, including, as I said, for your specific business, your specific sector, what kind of business registration or licenses you may or may not need. And for your specific sector, your specific company, do you need connections with suppliers or partners on the ground that can partner with you or work with you? We can Invest Hong Kong, we can provide those connections with you. Or what is the landscape of a particular sector in Hong Kong, say restaurant business, real estate agency, real estate management for overseas property, or technology, what kind of technology? So what's the market like? We can provide that kind of market intelligence, market information. If you're a professional, as I said, if you want to I just want to look for a job there, then we can also provide you information. For example, okay, what kind of job, where can you look, and what kind of visas? Because there are different talent attraction programs. For example, a quality migrant admission scheme, which is a point-based program, which would allow you to go to Hong Kong without having found a job yet, without having found a school yet, just to go there with your family, and you will have time to adjust, to find a job, and then to see if it's a good fit for you. So we have programs like that that we can provide information on. So
Right.
everything is free, it's free advice. So that's the service we provide.
Yes, and I know for a fact it's good advice. And the reason is because so many companies have used Invest Hong Kong coming to make their decision. So we have somebody in the audience, and at the end, we're gonna, give Jacko's contact information so you can follow up. But Jacko, there is somebody who's thinking about establishing a healthcare fund. And so this is fund management. And they would like to leverage Euro medical device and different kind of biotech to do things in China, but they are also thinking of a fund formation. And so they're asking how Jacko, they could, consider Hong Kong versus, maybe one Chinese city. And so I think in this regard, that's a perfect, opportunity for you to support them, because asset management, just the field of fund management, is one of the priorities within financial services of government.
Right. So fund management, setting up a fund in Hong Kong, there are many options, and it's so we'll have to talk more specifically, and I have just shared my email address here to everybody, and feel free to email me and I will direct you to our Invest Hong Kong colleagues who can answer your questions more specifically. But in general, Hong Kong as an international finance center, capital, free flow of capital is extremely important. So in Hong Kong, you can get your money in and out no matter how much, any time of the day, regardless of, there is just no restriction. So free flow of capital, extremely important, which contrasts us with the mainland of China. But there are also investment opportunities available for Hong Kong or companies located in Hong Kong who want to invest into mainland of China, because there are special channels that have been established. For example, Stock Connect, Bond Connect, and just a few months ago, Wealth Management Connect. What it means is, for mainland and Hong Kong retail investors, they are able to invest into the wealth management products or stocks and bonds on the other side, subject to a limit. Now, that is not possible for other markets. So these are Hong Kong only. So Hong Kong is an important gateway, both for international investors or retail investors located in Hong Kong to invest into mainland market, and for mainland investors to invest into the products available in Hong Kong, which are international products. So it is an important function of Hong Kong, and this function will only grow, albeit in a controlled manner, as that is how the mainland wants to open its market, in a controlled manner. So, yeah.
That's great. As we wrap up at the top of the hour, I think it's important for all the participants who are joining us today and those that will listen to our recording to recognize that when you think about Asia, and in particular China or Greater China, that you give Hong Kong, because of all the attributes that Jacko has spoken about, at least a look. And I believe that the only way business can proceed and advance is to take a little bit of risk, but you got to do the homework. and that part of it is to learn more. So for all the audience, if there is just a particular angle or question, like how to set up, what markets, what products do I have, whether there's a customer match, whether there's a strategic partner match, whether there's a financing match, whether there is a partner that I could collaborate with so that 1 + 1 = 3. All of these are the types of topics, Jacko, that I think you and your team will be able to address for our audience. And please remember, Austin is special, and these are some of the great entrepreneurs. They're incredibly driven. They are successful here, and they want to take it to one next level higher. And so, Jacko, would you close us out with any final thoughts about Hong Kong? And then we will say goodbye.
Thank you, Clifford. I totally agree with what you just said. I would just like to thank you and thank the Greater Austin Asian Chamber, and thank you all the audience who have listened to us today. And we just want to offer ourselves at your service. So if you're interested in Hong Kong or exploring opportunities there, we are here. And so do feel free to contact us and let us know what your needs are, and we would be happy to provide all the information you need. And we hope that we'll be able to visit Austin in person soon so that we can meet in person and have a good time and talk some more.
All right, that's great. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much and have a great day. Be well, stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jacko. Thank you, Clifford, for such an informative session and captivating conversation. As Jacko mentioned, she and her team originally were planning to visit us in person this fall, but has to postpone. So we hope the situation improves and we get to host them soon in person in early 2022. I hope our audience enjoyed this webinar as much as we do. If you have any additional questions for Jacko, for Clifford, or for our Asian Chamber, please send them to info@austinasianchamber.org, info@austinasianchamber.org. A recorded webinar has already been available on our Facebook page. We will also publish today's recording on our website for people who couldn't make it today. Lastly, I want to plug in a quick announcement about our annual Gala Ovation that is coming up in 2 weeks on December the 4th. Ovation is our chamber's celebration of Asian heritage, where we recognize businesses and organizations who have made contributions to economic success of the Greater Austin region and make our community a better place. This will be our last in-person event of the year. So if you haven't purchased a table or a seat, please hurry up as we are almost sold out. You can find more information about Ovation on our website, austinasianchamber.org. Thank you again, Jacko and Clifford, for your time to enlighten us. And thank you, our audience, again, for tuning in. Stay safe and hope to see you all at the Ovation. Bye.
Bye-bye.